Blue Dog Films presents Paid to Dream with Charles Dennis. Yes, it's Paid to Dream back again, and our guest today is Malcolm Danare, who is a wonderful actor,
Hello.
a producer, and he has been my collaborator on a new streaming series called Thorn in My Side. And I had a remarkable experience in last week where it was like past life therapy, where Malcolm went back in time to something he had completely forgotten about. You want to tell us about that?
Charles, I was going to say first thing, I am a thorn in your side a lot of the time.
Yes,
But
but
no,
I
no,
love
no.
it.
Yes, you've given me the a wonderful opportunity to get back, just to feel what it's like to be on stage again. How wonderful it was. It was like something's up. Okay, there
Oh,
we
well, we'll
go.
get to that in a
How
minute.
wonderful.
But I was
Yeah. Oh,
referring to your going to the opera again, what you had completely forgotten about when
oh.
you were a kid.
Oh, well, you have to say opera.
Well, not
Yeah,
Oprah.
when I was, no, we don't want Oprah. No, when I was, I would say 7 or 8 years old, we had a field trip from school. I went to a public school here in Los Angeles, in the Valley. And I was taken to see a show called The Bartered Bride. The Bartered Bride, which is an opera. And I I sat in the theater in the seats, and I literally felt like I had been here before. But it was such a strong deja vu that I couldn't get over it. So a few days, about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, you and I are driving in your car, Charles. Oh, good Lord. And
He's in
and
demand.
we're driving in your car. Oh, my Lord. And we're driving in your car, and next thing I know, you trigger me into thinking about I I saw an opera. We don't know if it was at the Amundsen or the Mark Taper, but you did so much research in finding out that it was the Bartered Bride that I saw, and we figured it out. It was an incredible trigger, and I thank you for that.
I still wonder that you, it's like the flashback within the flashback, that you remember watching it and having a sense of deja vu about having seen The Bartered Bride, or just being at an opera, or what?
I can't I don't know what it was, but because we were looking at a theater for the reading, and we were just talking about plays and musicals, and in your car you triggered me, and I hadn't thought about The Bartered Bride in years, and then it just all of a sudden was like explosion time. And then you did a lot of research.
Well, there's a lot of explosions in your life. And by the way, thank you again. Uh, the people who watch Paid to Dream know that I have a new play called The Sheer Force of Will. And we did the first public reading of it last week, and you played Harold Clurman. And you were wonderful. And as always, in our collaboration as writers, you helped me then come up with new ideas for the rewrite. And for that, I'm grateful. And
I
no, we had done
I
3 years ago. We wrote. It started off as a pilot, and we ended up doing 5 episodes of a series called Thorn in My Side. And we're
Yeah,
waiting. We're waiting to hear. It's out with various people. It's very exciting.
it's very exciting. It's very exciting. I just think, quite honestly, uh, my whole thing, Charles, is how exciting it was to actually step on a stage again. And it had been honestly 17 years,
Wow.
17 years since I had stepped on a stage. And we had quite a few people in the audience that night. And again, you all of a sudden, like being in front of a camera, you forget that there's 35, 40 people in front of a camera that are technicians that are doing everything around you. All you're doing is having eye contact with the actor on stage, and you forget about everything other than just having a fun time and being on stage and acting with that the other person. It was incredible.
Well, I had a lot of fun with you and with everyone else. Now, when was the first time you did step on a stage?
The first time I ever stepped on a stage, ever, great question, was in college. What was the name of the play that Joe Bologna and his wife wrote? Lovers and Other Strangers. Lovers and Other Strangers. There were like 4 vignettes in it. I think there were 4 different vignettes. I was part of the Jewish couple, the mother and the father and the their son and everything. But that was the first time, and it was just a fluke that they asked me to do it, and that was really kind of my first acting experience ever in a junior college.
Wow. Well, your career seems to be based on flukes. I mean, you made your first appearance in a movie as a fluke. How
As
did
a
that
fluke,
happen?
my well, I'm going to Reader's Digest this for you because I know we don't have a lot of time, and I like to talk.
Go ahead.
That's like a line from the play, Harold Clurman. My father owned a taxi cab business here in Los Angeles. And one day when he was driving one of his taxis back to the garage, he saw some guy waving him down in the street on Sunset Boulevard. And that gentleman happened to be Frank Rodham, who was directing a movie called The Lords of Discipline. And my father just accidentally picked him up. The 2 gentlemen, my father and Frank, had English accents, both English accents. My father was born in England, as my mother, but they started talking, and my father said, "Well, what are you doing here in Los Angeles?" And the guy said, "Well, I'm late for getting to the Paramount Studios for auditioning a movie called The Lords of Discipline." And my dad said, because he remembered I did a little itty bitty play in college, he said, "My son's an actor." Really, honestly, had never, ever acted in my life. And the gentleman said, "Have Malcolm come down. I'd like to meet him." Oh, because my father showed him a picture, a 12th grade, my 12th grade senior picture. And the guy seemed to like the picture. I went down to Paramount Studios, met with Frank Rodham, met with the producers, and they offered me the role that day, which changed my life completely. Completely changed my life.
Was this before the Elliot Gould film that he said you couldn't catch the ball or something? What was that?
Oh my God, you remembered that? No, that was, my mother had a hairdresser, and the hairdresser had a client. I think her name was Susanna York? Susanna York,
Yes.
who was in that movie. And my mother's hairdresser said, "Does Malcolm and his sister, my sister, do they want to be extras in a movie?" We're going back years and years. I would have
So
been
this
in
is before the Frank Rodham encounter.
years, 5 years, 6 years before it. It was just a chance that my mother's hairdresser said, "Hey, does your son and daughter want to be an extra in a movie?" And that was, what was the name of the movie, Charles?
Oh,
Elliot
was it
Gould,
with
Susanna
Elliot and
York.
Susanna York?
Yeah.
I don't know. They had done a very good thriller before that called The Silent Partner, and this was a reunion for that. I've never seen that film. But anyhow,
What's that called? I can't remember it. I'm sorry.
that's okay.
I was an extra, so it's not worth remembering.
But it's very interesting. Your early films, it's like I was talking to Fred Melamed the other week on the show, and watching a movie from the late '80s with Cher, and there was this guy with a big head of hair, like almost a conch. And I said, and he spoke, and I said, God, this guy was the Fred Melamed of the '80s. And I went, it is Fred Melamed. He lost the hair. He became somebody else. You, with your famous films from the '80s, Flashdance and Christine, you are
Christine.
totally a different looking person than who you are now.
I was a very different looking person. A lot of people now in the year 2025 basically say you were like what Jonah Hill used to be like.
Exactly. I was just
That
thinking.
character actor.
Yeah, used to be as well. He's somebody else now.
He's a different wonderful actor now.
Mr.
I just
Svelte.
look the years, yeah, the years in Hollywood. They make your hair fall out and make you lose a lot of weight,
But I'm
or
curious.
you gain a lot of weight because you eat so much.
The two films I just mentioned have become, well, they were successful to begin with, but they're, Christine, particularly, a cult film that has taken you all over the world for these revivals, whatever you want to call them. Are they surprised that you're not that chunky guy when you turn up for these?
100%. Yeah, I mean, the weird thing about me, and I'm 63 years old. Never, I don't ever lie about my age. So, but I still have a very youthful sounding voice. So everybody, when they meet me, go, "Oh yeah, you sound like Moochie from Christine, but you kind of don't look like him anymore because I probably had about 40 to 50 more pounds on me and a hell of a lot more hair." Right now, we're
Well, it's
doing
quite
okay. We're doing
luxuriant
all right.
from when I first met you a couple of years ago.
Yes, we're doing fine again. We're doing fine. It's like the parting of the Red Sea. It's a miracle happening.
It's the sequel to Hair. It's called The Return of the Hair.
Good God, I have no idea. I don't know and it's not transplants. I promise you. It's just
Well,
the luck of the draw.
amazing. And what's I made some films in the '80s that are mercifully forgotten. Except some guy contacted me and said, "I want to do a podcast with you. You've been in these classic films of the '80s." I said, "Where in Bratislava? Who would want to watch these movies?" But it's just amazing. But for you going back to Christine, and you haven't let it, it hasn't identified you. You're not stuck as Moochie. You've gone on and done so many other
No.
things. Was it a happy experience
I'm
making it?
well, what was I'm sorry, Charles. What the great thing was is, in the Lords of Discipline, I play this cadet who's in this place called the Citadel in South Carolina, which is a military academy, who gets picked on and picked on and picked on until he jumps off, until he commits suicide. And then my next film was where I got to play a bad guy in the movie Flashdance, where they put heels on me, probably about this big, and I looked really, really, really big, and I got to be around naked women all the time, which, coming from your first film, I was around guys, and it was like guys here, testosterone and all this, and then all of a sudden you get around naked women everywhere, and you're kind of going, this is fun. This is what Hollywood should be about. And then the next film was Christine, where I get to play a bad guy. And then the next film after that was a really charming film called I'll say the first name. It was called Catholic Boys,
Right.
but then but they renamed it Heaven Help Us, and it was
Right.
about Catholic boys in a Catholic school, which was charming. And that's where I met your friend Donald Sutherland.
And how was that?
Lovely man, very, very lovely. He's definitely a method actor, and when you're on the set with Mr. Sutherland, he doesn't like to really associate with the people he doesn't really like in the film as the character, that is. And it was good. It was good for the characters. So I applaud him for how he handled himself on the set.
And John Hurd, wasn't he in that too?
John Hurd was great. Mary Stuart Masterson, Kevin Dillon, Andrew McCarthy, a young Patrick Dempsey, Kate Reed. It was an incredible cast, and I was lucky to be third on the call sheet. You don't
Lovely.
get to be that lucky sometimes.
And then Godzilla has been a good friend to you.
Godzilla was a very good friend. It sort of opened, well, it did open up the world. Yes, it was incredible to be in an actual $100 million film, but it opened up the world of voiceovers for me quite well. And so I got to reprise my role from Godzilla in the animated series. And we got to do, I think it was 60 episodes, which was like about 4 years of doing the Godzilla TV series. It was extremely fun, and then that led to a voiceover career. It was fun.
And as a film producer, you've also how many films have you produced?
Wow. Gosh. One. I'm the two. Right now, up to date, it's 6 of them. They're not studio films. They're not, oh my God,
There's no such thing anymore.
Call
in
every
studio.
single person.
No,
No,
they're all
and
indie.
it's like, don't call every, huh?
They're all indies now, from what I see. It's the studio movies are a
Yeah,
thing of the past.
they are. They're all indies, but the experience of producing a film that you're not in, it's very interesting because you get to stand behind the camera, and you kind of want to give notes, and you kind of want to say this, and you want to say a lot of things, but you just have to keep your mouth shut and let the director do what they're supposed to do. But some of the actors come over to you and say, "Hey, do you think I should do something different?" And I'll go, "Well, if you want to try this, but we don't want to tell the director that."
Let's not tell him.
No,
Well,
no, that wouldn't be good.
I had the joy of directing you twice on film now, or on whatever that thing is. Um, my phone, directing you on my phone. And your characters, you inspired me to create 2 very distinct characters. Certainly, Emery, Emery Bodkin, the society jeweler. You just ran with him. He was great.
I want to tell you, I am such a fan of your husband. He's a genius.
You know Stephen?
Not personally, but his work. Jaws, Schindler's List, and little E.T. wept like a baby.
My husband is not that Steven Spielberg.
He's not. He's not.
Charles, I talk to a lot of people, a lot of actors who are in your Foo Dog film family. And we have, most of the actors, we just have a really fun time. And, it's just fun to play as an actor. And you give us the opportunity to do that. And it's charmingly fun. It really is.
Thank you. And then a nom de plume, you basically came up with the concept of you playing this despicable producer, Screaming Steve Shankman.
You're suddenly Norwegian?
In my research, she's Swedish.
We're gonna have to change her name. I want something simple, like Annie. That's it. Annie. Annie Jones. That's simple and something Americans can pronounce.
Steve, dummy, she's Swedish.
Emerald, find her, or you're fucking fired!
Well, you had the character of the name Screaming Steve. I just made him despicable. It just kind of worked that way, you know? But
And arrived in
it's
that
fun.
wonderful that yellow jumpsuit, which inspired Jack Maxwell's like, you look like a banana.
Yeah, yeah. It was, believe it or not, that sweatsuit belonged to another friend of ours, Kin Schreiner. So
My.
so I borrowed that sweatsuit from him. Yeah, I look like a banana.
It's
fun.
You have the most eclectic group of friends, I must say. People say, "Oh, you know everybody," but I think you know more people than I do.
I don't know if I know more people. I don't know. I've been really lucky, and maybe let's say 95% lucky with all the people that I've met, and then 5% unlucky with some of the people I wish I didn't meet. So I believe that yes, we all have our egos. That's one big thing when you find success in Hollywood. You get an ego. But I've never really let that ego explode, which I could have many, many times, but I don't want to because I didn't want to burn a bridge. And I don't think I've burned many bridges in this town, I'm happy to say.
It's a fine line walking that tightrope, because there are people you do want to throttle. I worked with this French Canadian producer years ago, and you introduced the concept to me of I before E, intellect before emotion. I wish I'd known that because I physically attacked this man twice. I just lost it. It's.
I don't, I've never come to fisticuffs with anybody, I'm happy to say, especially with a director, because I think at that point it would be a disaster on the set trying to even do dialogue. So what happened with that? I mean, you were on a film, and you and the director almost came to fisticuffs?
Well, no, he was the producer.
Oh, the producer. Sorry.
I had written a part for myself, and it was agreed that I would play this part. And this guy, he would get names wrong and everything. And I remember coming and saying, you are no longer playing that part. It's going to be played by Saul Ruberneck." And I think he meant Saul Rubinek, a very talented actor from Canada. And I just flew across the room because how could this is a man who went to see a screening one night of a Blake Edwards movie, and I said to him, "How was it?" He goes, "I would have to ask a few more people first." I said, "But you saw the movie. What did you think?" He goes, "Charles, what is wrong with you? You know I don't have an opinion of my own." And I was stunned that this man could actually admit, Anyhow, I can't remember now what happened, but I know that we were at a hotel, and I was standing on the stairs when he said something that and I flew off the stairs like Douglas Fairbanks, and
Jesus.
and threw him to the carpet, and he said, "Charles, you have to find some other way to deal with me." And I just fell off. He was a riot. This guy was, but
Yikes!
he just pressed the
But
wrong
you
button.
finished. Oh, sorry.
No. We made the movie. He was a funny guy. I'm not going to say his. People who know who I'm talking about know who I'm talking about. But I remember he said that For this film, you will cast the men and I will cast the women. You know. He disappeared with
Okay.
one of the actresses to Paris for a week in the middle of the shoot. Anyhow,
Interesting. Interesting. Well,
well,
I'm not
I
going
mean,
to. We won't say anything there.
I know there's. Well, if they're dead, I think we're allowed to talk about, whatever. They're not going to come back and
Oh,
get you.
yeah, not at this point. Now I got to ask you a question. You're
Please.
writing a book. Yes, I'm going to ask you a question because
Oh
I
yeah.
love the title of your book. The title of your book is fantastic. And what is the title and what is it about?
The book is called "Who the Hell is Charles Dennis," and it's about my. What did this? Pete Sepanik said it was like almost famous. What was the guy who wrote the book? Cameron. He became a Jerry Maguire.
Oh, Cameron Crowe?
Yes. So Cameron Crowe, was he not a teenage reporter for Rolling Stone or something?
Yes.
So
Not Rolling Stone. Was it Rolling Stone?
I
No.
think so.
Yeah.
But what other outlet would there be for
So,
rock and roll journalism? Anyhow, he said this is sort of, that you're like the legit version, the theater and film. I started very, very young in Toronto. Even before I got a job at the newspaper, I was turning up at press receptions for the O'Keefe Center because of this encyclopedic information in my brain. And I rescued them at one press conference, and they took me aside and said, "We want you here from now on." So for 2 years, between the ages of 15 and 17, I would go on Sundays to these press conferences and have wonderful food that my mother served, bacon wrapped shrimp and all these things, and met
is all the kosher stuff?
all the kosher stuff, exactly. And I
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
meeting people like Victor Borge, Johnny Mathis, Harry Belafonte,
Wow.
and then I got a phone call from the press rep there saying, Nathan Cohn wants to meet you. Nathan Cohn was the dreaded critic of the Toronto Star, and he sent for me. He said, I'm going to offer you the opportunity to work with me here at the paper. And at the same time, I got a call from
Oh,
the
okay.
rival paper, the Toronto Telegram, and they wanted me to work for them as well. And I realized I'm better to talk because Nathan Cohn he was a monster. And he said to me, if you don't come to work for me, I predict that you will commit suicide by the age of 21. I said,
Wow.
Christ. But I think when I was 22, or 23, I was in London directing something and read a newspaper that Nathan Cohn had died. I went, well, I outlived him. But so the book is just the stories of all these people who I feel like Zelig, the Woody Allen movie, the guy who was always there near somebody famous or whatever. Except
Yes. Yeah.
I met these, I've continued a career as a playwright, novelist, actor, director, producer, and people who I met at the beginning of their careers, and there's all sorts of people in the book. I had to stop at page 300 and something because I said, no, that'll be for the next volume, which is called "Oh, That Charles Dennis." But the title came
Ah.
from when I was about 20 years old. I was interviewing Jason Robards in his dressing room. He was doing a play called The Devils, and his then wife, Lauren Bacall, was further down the road doing Cactus Flower, and she would call every night to check on him to see what his condition was, because he was no stranger to the bottle. And I could hear that voice of hers coming through the phone. She said, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just sitting here with Charles Dennis." And through the phone I heard, "Who the hell is Charles Dennis?" And I said,
Of
even though I said,
course.
that'll make a good title someday. And someday has finally arrived. Bryan Cranston, about 5 years ago, turned up for coffee one day and said, "When are you going to write your book?" He had Frank Langella's book under his arm. And I said, I don't know. But he kept pestering me. And I finally did it. Sat down for the last 6 months and did the book. And it's with my agent now. So I'm
Wow.
waiting, nibbling my fingers, wondering, well, what's happening?
Well, I think the third book, once the third book comes out, it's like, oh dear God, it's Charles Dennis. So I don't know. I just noticed something, Charles. On my camera here, when I look at my camera, I'm looking into the camera, but you are right below. So I keep looking down and watching you. So I'm wondering the millions of people that are going to see this, the millions and millions of people, they're going to keep going, why is he looking down? Because I'm looking at you when you're talking, and then I kind of look up to look at the camera. So I just wanted to say that I'm not that crazy, and I'm not looking down at anything other than you at the
Oh,
screen.
please. The people look, but the point is, if they've done it right, then when you speak, it doesn't matter because it's just going to be you in the full frame. Oh my goodness, we've hit the 30-minute mark. I told you it would fly by.
Wow.
We're going to
Wow.
have to come. We're going to have to come back when Thorn in My Side is in production and talk about
From
how
your mouth to God's ears.
absolutely. Malcolm, always, always, always a pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, Malcolm Danare, and this has been Paid to Dream.